window pane is cold enough to numb a fingertip upon contact. Beyond the thick oval of glass, the world has been reduced to shades of deep indigo, and the stark, illuminating white of snow piled high along the runway edges. It is not merely dark out there. It is a heavy, velvety polar night that seems to wrap around the fuselage, pressing against the aluminum skin of the plane with a quiet, ancient weight. The engines spin down, their high-pitched whine dropping into a low, rumbling idle that vibrates gently through the floorboards and into the soles of my boots. We have come to a halt in the far north. The seatbelt sign dims, a soft chime that signals the end of the journey and the beginning of the arrival. There is a rustle of heavy fabrics as fellow passengers stand, pulling thick wool coats and down jackets from the overhead bins. The air in the cabin is still recycled and warm, but there is an anticipation of the chill, a phantom freshness that seems to seep in from the open door ahead. I pull my own coat tight, the zipper rising with a distinct metallic hum, and step into the aisle. Leaving the plane involves crossing a threshold of temperature. The jet bridge is cooler, the air thin and crisp. My footsteps echo on the metal ramp, a hollow, rhythmic thudding that marks the transition from the sky to the ground. The corridor slopes downward, guiding me toward the terminal. The ground beneath my feet shifts as I enter the building. The metal ramp gives way to a wide expanse of industrial carpet, gray and tightly woven. It absorbs the sound of the crowd, turning the shuffle of boots into a soft, hushed friction. I grip the handle of my carry-on bag. The wheels catch on the fabric for a moment, resisting the forward motion before finding their groove. I settle into a long, steady rhythm. The handle of the suitcase is cool and smooth in my palm. The weight of the bag trails behind me, a constant, grounding anchor. I do not rush. There is no need for speed here. At the top of the world, the hallway stretches out, bathed in soft, artificial light that reflects off the polished handrails. The carpet ends, replaced by smooth, expansive tile. The change in acoustic texture is immediate. The wheels of my case begin to hum, a low, continuous drone that resonates through the handle and up my arm. Whirr, whirr, whirr. The sound is consistent, hypnotic. It harmonizes with the rhythmic click of my heels against the hard floor. Left, right, left, right. The cadence is slow and deliberate. Other travelers drift past in the periphery, their voices low murmurs that blend into the ambient background noise of the airport. I focus on the sensation of movement, the slight tug of the bag on my shoulder strap, the way the floor seems to glide beneath me. Every 40 or 50 paces, the wheels roll over a seam in the tiles, creating a rhythmic clack-clack that interrupts the smooth drone. It becomes a metronome for my breathing. Inhale for 4 steps. Exhale for 4 steps. The corridor widens. The floor changes again, this time to a rubberized surface near the baggage claim, designed to dampen sound. The humming of the wheels drops an octave, becoming a muted vibration. I navigate through the space, following the flow of the arrivals hall. It is a low-information space, a place of transit where the mind can rest in the repetition of walking. There are no demands here, only the simple physics of moving from one point to another. The weight of my coat feels reassuring, a heavy layer of protection against the elements waiting outside. I pass through the sliding glass doors and into the main hall. The air here is different again, laced with a draft from the exit. It smells faintly of coffee and cold air. I continue my pace, the wheels returning to the hard terrazzo floor, the higher-pitched hum resuming its song. Leaving the terminal, the automatic doors part with a pneumatic hiss. The Arctic air greets me like an old friend. It is sharp, dry, and incredibly clean, carrying the scent of salt water and frozen earth. It wakes the senses without stinging. I find a waiting taxi, the door closing with a solid, final thud that seals out the cold. The ride to the hotel is a blur of passing streetlights and snowbanks that glow orange under the sodium lamps. The tires crunch over packed snow, a sound like sugar being crushed in a mortar. It is a soothing, grinding texture that vibrates through the chassis of the car. I watch the city drift by, small wooden houses huddled together against the vast black backdrop of the mountains and the sea. My room is warm. The silence here is profound, deepened by the heavy curtains that I draw across the window, shutting out the eternal night. I leave my bag by the door. The coat comes off, the heavy wool falling away to reveal the lighter air of the room. I pull back the duvet. The sheets are cool, crisp cotton, white and smooth. I sit on the edge of the mattress, letting the mattress absorb my weight. My feet leave the floor, swinging up as I lie back. The pillow rises to meet me, firm and yielding. The journey is over. The waiting begins. I close my eyes, listening to the absolute quiet of the room, and let my breathing slow to match the stillness of the north. The air here possesses a density that defies the thermometer. It is not merely cold. It is heavy, a physical weight that presses against the layers of wool and down, sealing the warmth close to the skin. Standing at the edge of the harbor, the water appears as a sheet of polished obsidian, dark and viscous, reflecting the scattered amber glow of street lamps that line the wooden promenade. The scent of brine is sharp, preserved by the frost, lacking the organic decay of southern ports. Here, the salt smells like ice. My boots make a hollow, rhythmic sound against the timber slats of the walkway near the Polar Museum. The red wooden siding of the building looms to the left, a block of color muted by the Arctic twilight. Even at midnight, the darkness is not absolute. It is a deep, bruised blue, a canvas waiting for paint. I lean against the railing, letting the vibration of the harbor travel through the metal and into my gloves. This is the place to listen for it. They call it the Arctic hum, a low-frequency resonance that seems to emanate from the earth itself, or perhaps from the deep engines of the fishing trawlers idling in the distance. It is less a sound and more a pressure in the ears. I close my eyes. The hum is there, beneath the lap of water against the pilings, and the distant cry of a restless gull. It is a steady, mechanical thrum, a bass note that grounds the silence, vibrating against the sternum. It feels ancient, as if the fjords themselves are breathing a slow, subterranean breath. Turning away from the black water, I let the promenade guide me toward the town center. The transition from the open harbor to the residential streets is a shift in acoustics. The wind loses its bite, blocked by the rows of historic architecture. I drift toward Skippergata, where the history of this city stands preserved in timber and paint. The street is narrow, an intimate corridor of wooden facades. I pause before number 19. The house is a testament to resilience, standing straight against the sloping street. I step closer, drawn to the texture of the wall. This is the Trondheim paneling, a specific style of cladding where the boards are laid vertically, creating deep, shadowed grooves. I trace the line of the wood with a gloved finger. The paint is thick, layered over generations, but beneath it, the grain of the pine is raised, hardened by decades of freezing and thawing. The surface is uneven, a topographical map of winters past. It feels solid, unyielding, a shell protecting the quiet lives inside. The street stretches out ahead, rising gently into a slope that disappears into the shadows. I adjust the collar of my coat and begin to move again, entering a long stretch of silence where the world narrows down to the immediate rhythm of motion. One foot falls, then the other. The sound is a dry crunch, the compression of packed snow that has turned to a fine, sandy grit on the pavement. Step, breath, step, breath. The rhythm takes over, pushing aside thoughts of maps and destinations. There is only the sensation of movement. The air is still, devoid of wind, hanging suspended in the corridor of houses. To my right, a fence casts a long, picket-shaped shadow across the white ground. To my left, a window remains dark, reflecting only the passing ghost of my own silhouette. I keep a steady pace, neither rushing nor lingering. The motion becomes a pendulum, swinging comfortably. My breath releases in rhythmic clouds, white plumes that exist for a second before dissolving into the navy blue night. Step, crunch, step, crunch. The repetition is hypnotic. There are no cars, no voices, no distant sirens, just the friction of rubber soles on ice and the soft intake of cold air. The street lamps form pools of isolation, cones of yellow light that illuminate the texture of the road, highlighting every pebble and ridge of ice. I pass through one pool of light, feel the momentary brightness, and then slip back into the cool shadow, only to approach the next. It is a cycle of emergence and retreat, a visual drumbeat that matches the cadence of my stride. The cold is no longer a shock. It has become a constant, a stable element like the ground itself. My pace slows as the street levels out. The rhythm of the walk settles into a stillness. I find a bench cleared of snow, positioned beneath the limbs of a dormant birch tree. I sit, the wood cold and firm beneath me. Above, the sky is a vast, open theater. The clouds have thinned, leaving ragged gaps where the stars burn with a fierce, trembling intensity. I do not look for patterns or constellations. I simply watch the dark spaces between the stars. The waiting is not impatient. It is a passive state, a surrender to the timing of the atmosphere. The hum of the harbor is gone, replaced by the perfect, ringing silence of the residential quarter. I rest my hands in my lap, heavy and still, and let my gaze drift upward, losing focus, letting the darkness soften the edges of the world, until everything is a gentle, blurring gray. The air near the harbor is not merely cold. It has a texture, thick and crisp, like sheets of parchment paper layered over the world. I pull my scarf higher, burying my chin into the wool, and step away from the warm glow of the hotel lobby. The transition is instant. The heat of the indoors vanishes, replaced by the deep, abiding chill of the 79th parallel. My path traces the edge of the water, moving toward the northern tip of the jetty. The ground here is a mix of cleared pavement and stubborn patches of hard-packed snow that crunch softly under the thick rubber of my boots. To my left, the boats in the marina bob in a slow, disjointed rhythm, their masts swaying like the pendulums of 100 silent clocks. Ahead, the darkness is broken by a peculiar shape rising from the concrete. It is the port till Ishavet, the gateway to the Arctic. It stands as a semicircular frame, a window of stone and mosaic open to the endless north. I move closer to inspect the surface. Even in the dim, ambient light of the harbor, the mosaic tiles catch a faint shimmer. They are cool to the touch, smooth glass and stone arranged in patterns that mimic the swirling currents of the sea. I step through the archway. The structure frames the view perfectly, cutting out the distraction of the city behind me and leaving only the ink-black water and the sky. Standing in this gateway feels like standing on the edge of the map. There is nothing between me and the pole but dark waves and ice. The wind picks up, whistling through the curve of the sculpture, carrying the scent of salt and ancient ice. I find a sturdy wooden bench near the edge of the jetty and settle down, letting the weight of the day drain into the timber. The movement of the city feels miles away. Here, there is only the rhythmic cycle of the tide and the breath in my lungs. I close my eyes for a moment, listening. The water laps against the concrete pilings below. It is a slow, heavy sound. Slosh, pause, retreat. Slosh, pause, retreat. The rhythm becomes the only thing that exists. It matches the slow rise and fall of my chest. The cold air enters, sharp and cleansing, filling the space inside my ribs. I hold it there, letting the temperature equalize, before releasing a long, slow cloud of steam that drifts away into the night. My hands rest deep in my pockets, fingers curled for warmth. I do not move. I do not check the time. I simply exist in the space between the water and the land. The darkness here is not empty. It is full of a heavy, velvet quiet. The sound of a distant boat engine hums, a low vibration that travels through the water and the wood of the bench, and then fades into silence. The cycle repeats. Breath in. The cold touches the back of my throat. Breath out. The warmth escapes into the ether. The water rises against the wood, darker than the night sky, rolling over itself in endless, unseen folds. It is a lullaby of liquid and stone, playing on an infinite loop, requiring nothing from me but presence. Gradually, I open my eyes and let my gaze drift across the sound, over the black expanse of the Tromsø Sundet Strait. On the far shore, glowing against the base of the mountains, sits the Arctic Cathedral. It does not look like a building of stone and mortar. It looks like an iceberg that has decided to stay. A series of white, triangular peaks stacked against each other, pushing upward. From this distance, the details of the architecture soften, but the light is unmistakable. The entire western face is a wall of glass, and from within, a warm, golden radiance spills out across the snow and the water. I focus on that light. It is not a flat, electric yellow. It has depth. Inside the cathedral, massive chandeliers hang from the soaring ceiling. They are Czech crystal, shaped to resemble icicles or prisms of frozen light. I cannot see the individual crystals from here, yet the effect is palpable. The light refracts and dances, creating a core of brilliance that looks like a fire burning inside a glacier. It is a beacon of warmth in a landscape defined by the cold. The glow reflects off the dark water of the sound, creating a rippled pathway of gold that stretches halfway across the channel, trying to reach the jetty where I sit. I watch the interplay of the cathedral's light and the surrounding shadows. The structure anchors the view, a fixed point of luminosity, while the rest of the world drifts in the blue-black gradient of the polar night. Above the peaks of the cathedral, the sky is a vast, open canvas, currently dark and starless, holding its breath. I lean back, my eyes moving from the warm gold of the church to the deep navy of the zenith, waiting for the colors to change, content to simply watch the stillness hold its shape. The afternoon light does not fade so much as it retreats, pulling back the heavy gray blanket of the sky to reveal the indigo evening underneath. Down here in the town center, the artificial glow of shop windows creates a patchwork of warmth against the snowbanks that line the curbs. These mounds of white are taller than me now, compacted by plows and polished by the wind until they resemble walls of marble. I wander away from the main promenade, seeking the quieter veins of the city where the history is painted onto the wood. Most of the houses here wear the traditional red ochre. It is a rusty, earthy color, originally the cheapest paint available to the fishermen who built this place, mixed from fish, oil, and clay. It feels grounded and robust, absorbing the orange street lamp light and reflecting a cozy heat. But I am searching for the exception. I turn down a narrow lane where the snow has not been cleared, only packed down by the tread of boots. The sound of the city traffic is muffled here, hidden behind rows of timber. There it is. Between two buildings of deep barn red stands a structure painted a distinct pale blue. It is the Palmer blue. This is the color of the trade with the East, a pigment that speaks of exchange across the icy seas. I stop to look at the siding. The paint is thick, smoothing over the grain of the pine boards beneath. In the low light, the blue seems to vibrate, a cool, aquatic tone that belongs more to the ocean ice than the warm hearth. It stands out like a piece of sea glass washed up on a shore of red clay. I let my eyes trace the white trim around the windows, simple and stark against the blue. There is no need to touch it to know it is cold. Leaving the blue wall behind, I turn my back to the harbor and face the incline. The town is built on a slope, and to find the open sky, one must climb. The transition from the paved streets to the gravel path is seamless, buried under layers of hard-packed winter. The houses thin out. The electric lights become spaced further apart until they are just solitary beacons marking the edge of the wild. I begin the ascent toward the top of the island. The rhythm of the climb takes over. It is a slow, steady cadence that requires no thought, only breath and movement. My right boot sinks slightly into the surface, finding purchase on the grit hidden in the ice. Then the left boot follows, swinging forward to take the weight. There is a soft crunch with each step, a sound like sugar being crushed in a mortar. It is the only sound in the world right now. The grows thinner and sharper as the elevation increases. I breathe it in through my nose, feeling the chill travel down the back of my throat, cooling the lungs, before exhaling a cloud of white steam that hangs for a moment in the still air. Step, crunch, breath. Birch trees begin to crowd the path. Their trunks are slender and pale, almost silver in the darkness, peeling in papery curls that flutter when a breeze passes. They stand like silent sentinels, thousands of them, motionless and waiting. The incline demands a consistent pace. I do not rush. I do not slow down. There is only the pendulum swing of my arms and the steady push of my legs against the gravity of the hill. The darkness here is not black, but a deep, resonant charcoal. The snow on the ground captures the ambient starlight and the reflection of the city far below, casting a faint, ghostly illumination on the path ahead. I watch my own shadow stretch and contract as I pass the gaps in the trees. The cold presses against the fabric of my coat, a constant, heavy weight that defines the boundaries of my body. Step, crunch, breath. The repetition clears the mind, sweeping away the details of the town, leaving only the sensation of climbing. The path flattens. The trees recede, stepping back to reveal a vast, open circle of white. I have reached Lake Prestvenet. In the summer, this is a reservoir of dark water, but tonight it is a great, flat plain of ice and snow, indistinguishable from the ground, except for its perfect flatness. The wind has free rein here. It sweeps across the frozen surface, polishing the drifts into smooth, undulating waves. I move toward the edge of the lake. The silence is profound, but it is not empty. Suddenly, a sound travels across the ice. It is a high, resonant ping. It sounds like a laser, or a stone skipping across a taut metal wire. It is the ice singing. The temperature is dropping, and the massive sheet of frozen water is expanding and contracting, shifting against the pressure of the deep cold. The sound echoes, shattering the quiet for a split second before vanishing completely. I stand still, listening for it to happen again. The darkness above is immense. The clouds that held the gray ceiling earlier in the day have begun to fracture, leaving gaps where the true night sky looks through. I tilt my head back. There is no aurora yet, only the anticipation of it. The air is so clear, it feels magnified. I find a bench cleared of snow near the water's edge and settle onto it. The wood is frozen solid. I sit with my hands deep in my pockets, shoulders relaxed, watching the horizon where the black silhouette of the mountains meets the dark velvet of the sky. The lake releases another long, hollow note, a shattered ping that vibrates in the chest. I am not waiting for anything specific anymore, just existing in the space between the ice and the stars. The cold is a blanket now, heavy and still. The heavy oak doors seal behind me, cutting off the bite of the Arctic wind. Inside, the air is still and holds a respectful silence, preserved by the soaring triangular walls that meet high above like hands pressed together in prayer. There is a shift in pressure here, a density to the atmosphere that feels distinct from the open tundra. It smells of beeswax, old timber, and stone that has absorbed the cold from the ground. The nave stretches forward, a vast corridor of shadow and pale light. At the far end, the great stained glass window glows with deep blues and burning oranges, the only source of warmth in the cavernous space. It depicts not a scene, but a feeling, shards of color that mimic the fragmented light of the sun hitting a glacier. I move down the side aisle. My boots settle onto the slate floor with a muted rhythm, absorbing the sound rather than reflecting it. Near the front, the organ rises like a cliff face. It is not merely an instrument, but a part of the architecture, a structure of pipes and wood designed to echo the jagged geometry of ice flows. The concert has not yet begun, but the instrument is awake. A low hum vibrates through the floorboards, a sub-bass frequency that is felt in the soles of the feet rather than heard with the ears. To the left of the console, the casing curves outward. This is the housing for the bellows, the lungs of the machine. The wood here is painted a matte white, textured to resemble drift ice. I extend a hand. The surface is cool and smooth, polished by the years. Beneath the wood, a rhythmic pulse beats steadily. It is the intake of air, the slow, mechanical respiration required to feed the pipes. Resting my palm against the curve, the vibration travels up my arm. It is a steady, reassuring thrum, like the heartbeat of a dormant leviathan waiting to sing. There is no urgency in the movement, only a deep, latent power stored within the reservoir of air. I withdraw my hand and turn toward the pews. The wood of the benches is blonde and simple, unadorned. I choose a seat near the center, where the acoustics will converge. Here I settle. The weight of the coat lifts from my shoulders as I lean back against the hard, supportive timber. The space around me seems to expand, the high ceiling disappearing into a twilight gloom. My hands rest in my lap. I uncurl my fingers, letting the tension of the cold outdoors drain away. The stillness is not empty. It is a physical presence. I watch a single dust mote float through a shaft of blue light. It rises, pauses, and descends, caught in the imperceptible currents of the room. My breath slows to match the stillness. In and out. The air is cool in my nose, but neutral in my lungs. I fix my gaze on the gray stone of the floor. It is uniform, solid, anchoring the building to the earth. There is nothing to decode here. No signs to read, no maps to consult, no directions to follow. There is only the gray stone and the wooden pew. The minutes lengthen. I feel the gravity holding me to the seat, a gentle downward pull that invites rest. My eyes trace the grain of the wood on the pew in front of me. The lines run parallel, straight and true, never crossing, never tangling. They flow from one end of the bench to the other. The silence stretches. It is a valley of time where nothing happens and nothing needs to happen. The hum of the organ is a constant floor beneath the silence. It does not fluctuate. It remains steady, a horizon line of sound. I listen to the room breathing. The walls hold the air. The roof holds the shadow. The floor holds the weight. I am simply another object within the volume, stationary and quiet. The rhythm of my own heart seems loud in the quietude, a small drum beating against the vastness of the cathedral. I exist here, in the pause between events, suspended in the cool, blue-tinted air. From the loft above, the first note descends. It is not a sudden strike, but a bloom. A low, resonant chord swells from the pipes, filling the triangular void. It sounds like the wind moaning through a crevasse, deep and mournful, yet incredibly pure. The vibration returns to the floor, stronger now. A second note joins the first, harmonizing in a minor key. The music is slow, glacial in its pacing. There is no rush to resolve the melody. The organist lets the chords hang in the air, allowing them to roll over the pews and climb the walls before adding the next layer. It is a sound made of air and metal, elemental and raw. I close my eyes. The visual world dissolves, leaving only the sensation of sound and the memory of the cold bellows pulsing beneath my hand. The music creates a landscape of its own, building mountains and valleys in the darkness. The aurora is waiting outside, silent and elusive. But in here, the northern lights have a voice. The final chord sustains for a long time, fading so gradually that it is impossible to say exactly when the sound ends and the silence begins. I remain still, letting the resonance settle in my chest, content to wait in the dark a little longer.